Hello, everyone. My name is Gábor Bella. I was responsible for the technical work packages related to this health data sharing protocol. Yeah, so this is a reminder of the state of the art, let's say, how research is usually done involving hospitals and research centers. So depending on the kind of the study. So in the case of a retrospective study, the patients receive some kind of care at the hospital. Of course, data are collected during this process, and then they can be asked whether they would like to share their data in the future in a generic manner for research, yes or no. In prospective studies, of course, during the study, they have to go to the hospital or to the research center. Now, of course, every hospital, every country represents this data in a different manner. So there's some kind of data integration needed before those data can be exploited across hospitals, across research centers, across countries. So in this project, we try to be bold and change the whole principle by saying that the patients, the citizens, are sharing their data directly using their smartphones. They decide. So this is kind of a bottom-up approach as opposed to the top-down approach from before. Each patient decides using the smartphone whether they would like to participate in a specific experiment, yes or no. So, and then they share their data directly from their smartphone. Of course, there's a big constraint here. So that data integration, we are supposing that data integration has happened before. So on the phones, the data are already in a kind of an interoperable format. But this means that the patients can be everywhere, anywhere, so they don't need to be at a hospital, at a research center. They can do this data sharing really from anywhere, from the beach as well. Okay. So a little bit more technically, how does this happen? So at the bottom, there are the patients, and at the top, you see the research network, which Stefano has already introduced. So in our very simplified research network, there are three items. There are two research centers participating, one in Italy, one in Belgium. That's what happened in our pilots. And then there's a third element, a so-called central node that we introduced. And this central node has knowledge about all of the research studies on the research network in the form of these research definition documents. So the research definition documents of the research studies that have been approved officially are published on that central node. And then, after a bit of waiting, they let's try again. Yes. So these research definition documents are downloaded by the smartphones automatically. And then first an analysis is made on the phone. So whether the patient corresponds to the enrollment criteria of the study. This is done in a totally silent manner and on the phone. In order for privacy and in order not to bother the people. So if the study is only for males over 70 years, we will not bother all the other people who are not eligible anyway. So this eligibility check is made in an automated and silent manner. And then the patients choose individually whether they would like to participate or not. So there's one guy here who didn't give consent, and the others gave their consent, and they share their data. Of course, the data are anonymized on the phone, and the data sharing itself, so sending the data, can happen also in a silent manner. Yes, and then you see that a new item, a new element has appeared in the research network, which is the Citizens Hospital. So this is sometimes necessary if not all the data are present on the smartphone. So, for example, very large media files, images may not be present on the phone. It may not be possible to upload them there. So, in some circumstances, it's important to ask for such data directly from the hospitals. So there is also an element of this solution where a research center can contact the hospital directly. So this is the same network, but just drawn in a slightly different manner. So this explains the elements of this research data sharing protocol, this communication protocol. This is a citizen-centric protocol, so most of its elements involve the citizen and the smartphone in some way. So first of all, there's the research data definition protocol, which allows the download of research definition documents from the central node to the smartphone. Then there's the data sharing protocol part of it, which governs how the data are shared in a secure or anonymized manner. And then there's the third element, which is the retrieval of large files, such as DICOM imagery, directly from the Citizens Hospital. Okay, now a little bit more in detail. What are the steps of using this protocol? So everything starts with the citizen who decides to participate in general, to be open to participation to research studies. So there's an explicit opt-in. So I would like to be contacted about research studies. The second step is that a new study is published on the central node by the principal investigator of the study. This study, the RDD, the research definition document of the study, is downloaded silently by the smartphone, and there's a silent eligibility check. If the patient is eligible, he or she may want to enroll into the study. So there's a message sent to the research center that the citizen has chosen. So here he had the choice between Belgium, Italy, and Greece. Maybe it was a Belgian citizen, so he chose a Belgian research center. So the information about the enrollment and the consent is sent to the research center. The data retrieval by the sending of the data from the phone to the research center happens once or several times. This involves not only health data that are selected and anonymized, so the query of the data on the phone also happens automatically, because this research definition document is machine readable. And it also contains questionnaires. So health data sharing also means that the questionnaires that are filled in using the smartphone, the questionnaire responses are also sent to the research center now. Eventual large data retrieval happens from the hospital as a complement to the data shared from the phone. The citizen can decide to withdraw from a study at any moment for any reason. And the citizen can also decide to opt out from the whole research network and not to be contacted anymore about studies. So this is the coverage of our work in Interoperate about research data sharing. So a few words about the technological challenges involved in this. So on the research data definition and central node side, of course, you need a central node. For us, it was a portal for the management of research studies. Of course, there's the RDD that was already explained by Stefano. So you have to be able to describe formally the research study so that it will be machine interpretable, but it has to be multilingual as well, because we are contacting patients from multiple countries and they want to understand about the study in their own language. And this document, when it's sent to the smartphone, or it's retrieved by the smartphone, it has to be digitally signed, so that there are no malicious research definitions, fake research definitions that are introduced somehow into the network, and that will retrieve maliciously data from the smartphone. On the research data sharing side, there were a lot of challenges as well. The inclusion criteria and exclusion criteria in the RDD need to be interpreted automatically on the phone. The consent given by the patient needs to be digitally signed. The querying of the data happens in an automated way. The pseudonymization of data on the phone also needs to happen automatically. The provenance of the data needs to be transmitted, because for researchers, it's important to understand where the data is coming from. So is it a hospital who produced it? Is it the patient who entered the data using the smart EHR application, etc.? And then, of course, the data transfer needs to be secure. And finally, on the automated retrieval of large media side, there was, of course, the challenge of having the patient's consent to contact their hospital for this. And those media files need to be anonymized as well on the fly. So most of these were part of the open specifications that we have defined during the project. The only exception is the central node portal, because the research management portal was totally out of the scope of our project. It's a project in itself. So that was not specified. Everything else was specified. The implementation, partially or fully, but covered most of these protocols, except for the transfer of the large media that we didn't implement. For the central node portal, although that was not part of the protocols, we did make a working demo implementation that was used during the piloting of research data sharing. So the pilots involved all the implementation that we have done, with some exceptions. So what we piloted included most of the functionalities with some limitations, occasional limitations. I don't think I have the time to go through this, and I don't want to bore you, but for reference, we included here the limitations of our pilots. Okay, here the animations are a bit messed up. Sorry, I'm not Hergé. It's all my fault. So okay, so what did we deploy for the research pilot? We had 2 research centers, as already said by Stefano, one in Italy, FTGM, and CHU de Liège in Belgium, and the central node was on a computer in Greece. Okay, there were patients recruited from the 4 countries in the project, actually. So Greek and Italian patients connected to the FTGM research center, and Belgian and Romanian patients connected to CHU de Liège. Of course, they downloaded the research definition. They shared data as foreseen. And then the principal investigators have analyzed the data that were collected. And this is where my presentation ends.